Hey guys, it's Barb with Inspire Me 360, and in this video I want to talk a little bit about faith. And so, what do I mean by faith? As we go through our daily lives, the cycles of our lives, all the different twists and turns, I think it is so incredibly important to have a trust and a faith in the process. And this is also, again, it doesn't necessarily always compute to the way that we have been taught by society, especially modern society, to view our external reality. So things like spirituality, things like unseen forces, whether it be God or the paranormal, just basically any type of energy that is not seen by the five senses or not experienced by the five senses is discounted somehow as not applicable or non-existent. And the problem is that when we view life this way, when we really only take what we can sense physically, in a more tactile or visual way, we are discounting this part of our nature, which is the soul, and also what some would call the sixth sense. So I have had an extremely, I would say, intimate experience with my own paranormal perception since birth. I've always been able to experience that which is non-physical. I have always felt energies very, very intensely, and it never really made a lot of sense to my parents. It never really made a lot of sense to other individuals around me. And for probably most of my life, it was, if I was to talk about it, it was very dismissed and seen as like crazy, a craziness, or, maybe you are hallucinating. And I want to kind of give you a view through my eyes of how I experience this, to explain that definitely anybody out there that feels energy or senses things that are a little bit more non-physical, that likely that you are not hallucinating. So for me, the experience is, again, when I feel energy, it is the best way I can put it into words is the normal feeling that you have, where your body can sense that there is air. If you move your hand a little bit, you can feel that there's, a slight amount of drag. There is something in the ether beyond just a nothingness, okay? But, we can feel the air when the wind blows. Here's an example. When it's windy out, we can definitely see the effect that wind and the air molecules have on the trees. But this is different. When you start to sense an energy or a ramping up of the energetic forces in the universe, it's palpable. You will, like for myself, I feel this, it's almost like a drawing to energy. It's like a magnetism, but on an exponential level, where I start to almost tap, I would call it tap into the field. And it's where whatever energetic forces that are within me or are essentially holding my three-dimensional organic body together can reach out into the field and feel very, very intense, almost in a vibrational realm. And that's kind of the best way I can put it into words, is it's a vibration. And as the vibration increases, so as I can almost step into the energy of the higher realms, I feel a readback loop, like a feedback loop. So it will feel, in terms of my cellular structure, will feel like a vibration. So all of my cells in my body, and it will be an entire body experience, will start to vibrate very quickly. And it feels almost like a shiver up your spine, but it's much more subtle and invasive at the same time. So when we get a shiver up our spine, you kind of like feel that, right? For me, when I am sensing into energy, it's kind of similar to that feeling, and a little bit like the feeling if you've ever had what I would term as deja vu, where it kind of just jolts you, but it is an energetic jolt, energetic jolt to some degree, but this is on a cellular level that I would call like total. All of my cells feel this at the same time, and it's almost like an out-of-body experience. And in that moment as well, there's a transference of energy. So I can feel out into the quantum field, and I instantly bring back information that comes through thought forms. For me, also, it is automatic writing. So if I put my hand to a piece of paper with a pen, what comes out is very fast, extremely rapid, and I would not be able to speak it to you. Like, I wouldn't really know what's coming out. It's just pervasive, very, very quick writing. And when I go back to read the writing, it is usually on a level that, again, I've never read a book about it. I've never experienced this kind of information. And a lot of times the information that will come through, I'll Google it, like whether it be dates or whatever it is, and it will be accurate to historical events or anything like that. And so for me, I find it quite interesting that, these things have happened to me and for me throughout my life. Obviously, when I was younger, it made me very uncomfortable and I was very scared of it. And so for the most part, it also made me a very shy kid and a very almost withdrawn, because I didn't understand these experiences. And I would, I guess, when I was younger, also talk to my friends about it, and they would be like, what are you talking about? Sometimes they would think it was fun and funny, and they'd want to be like, let's get out the Ouija board and see if we can connect with the ghosts and that kind of thing. And, on another level, I have seen energies that I guess some people would term as ghosts. I never experienced it in that sense. Like, I didn't. So traditionally, when we think about, the Halloween ghosts, we think about people that have died. So they had a body that was incarnate, and then they passed over, and then they're kind of lingering here in the earth plane, still in some sort of an energetic form, but very much that their consciousness from their previous lifetime in their previous body is, again, still kind of lingering. That's never how I have experienced it in terms of seeing energy bodies. I have had various experiences where, and again, I really want to quantify this, where I am seeing my external reality, the bed, the chairs, the rugs, and there's nothing unclear about them. They're not fuzzy, they're not pixelated in any way. There's nothing about my external reality that is off, okay, when I see these things. The other thing I want to mention is I don't smoke weed, I don't take any kind of psychedelic substances, I'm not on any pharmaceutical medications, I won't even take a Tylenol. So I'm very picky about what I put in my body, and there's a bit of an explanation about that, which I will maybe even give in this video. However, there's almost no possibility that it is some sort of a external psychedelic experience, which I'm going through when these things happen. So and again, it's happened to me multiple times. When I was younger, really young, like 6 or 7, it would be more so just seeing an energy body, like a ghost. But it wasn't, there was nothing scary about this form. And it was it was a light form that I saw, and it was taller, quite a bit taller, and just sort of moved around and was surveying the house that I was staying in when I was a little girl. And again, there was nothing scary about it, and it wasn't trying to communicate with me in any way, maybe more in an observation mode. At that point, I thought it was kind of strange. I told my cousins about it. We talked about it, I think, for months and months and months, about how we had seen this ghost. But again, it was a very tangible, visual, kind of a misty, luminous form. And for me, it was just kind of confirmation. Okay, there's ghosts. When you're a little kid, you don't think much of it. And then as I, went through my my teenage years and into upper adulthood, there was multiple times beyond that where I have seen what I would call light beings. And there was, several times in particular where there was multiple beings in some sort of a form around me. And I want to really clarify what I mean as some sort of a form. They were luminous, so you could not say that they were, their structure wasn't that of a material, organic structure. I could tell that for sure. Like, there wasn't a lot of density or weight to their bodies, and the structure that they were, it was translucent. You could see through it. However, they did speak in a sort of way, but again, they spoke through thought form transference. So the questions would be very clear and crisp, but they're auditory through a thought. And if you don't have, I've spoken to many people and they're like, well, I'm not sure that I understand that. If you are an artistic person, this will probably make sense to you before you are going to do a painting or a drawing, or you have some sort of a idea of what you're going to create. You see it very clearly in your mind. And so that's a type of thought form. This is something that, again, the non-physical realm can communicate in this fashion. So when we think of like Leonardo da Vinci or Tesla or even Einstein, they would receive thought forms from the non-physical when they were sort of deep in this thinking or meditative state that would sort of pop into their heads. And then of course they would write it down and start to create from, this sort of instantaneous thought form. Now, I'm not going to say whether or not, where any famous inventors' thoughts came from. That's not my role. But I do know that experiences that I've had with that non-physical realm, there are times where it is a very direct transfer of seeing a light being, in my actual physical three-dimensional realm and having an instant transference of this thought form energy. The other thing that I have experienced, not as often, is again through spoken word. So it isn't auditory in the sense of from, that somebody else could hear it, but it is auditory in the sense that I can hear it in my mind. Just the way that if you are standing in a line and the guy in front of you is picking through his change, trying to buy his cup of coffee, and you're like, hurt the fuck up in your head, that is something you're hearing in your mind. It's auditory. You definitely are articulating it through word symbolism that we are all agreed upon to represent different things, but it is only echoing in your mind. So then the other question becomes, what is imagination? What is that dialogue or egoic mind? And what is truly a transference from the non-physical? So one of the ways that I've been able to discern this is that I can actually hear or have my ego mind still chattering away while these things are going on, and it's also some sort of a message transferring. Just like in the physical, when you're talking to somebody, you are talking, they are talking, and you might even have your inside voice saying things to you at the same time as this verbal conversation is going on. You can still distinguish three separate conversations. So it would be, first of all, the conversation from the physical person that's standing in front of you that is between you two. Then there's the secondary conversation, which is you speaking, so outwardly speaking. And then there would be the third conversation of your egoic mind happening inside your head, which you are still able to delineate and kind of sift through all three of those conversations kind of intermingling. So again, this is very similar to you just replace that person that is, in their organic structure with a light being or a non-physical structure, and then you can still very much categorize where the information is coming from. And keep in mind too, just like the feeling of deja vu, it's a knowing. You just know that this is something that is different than what you're normally experiencing. And anybody that has had a near-death experience, an experience of deja vu, or a profound spiritual awakening experience will tell you this is life-altering. You will never see the world as you did previously once you have one of these types of experiences. They are so incredibly profound that it shakes the very foundation of what we see as outward expressing reality. And then it calls into question these things like faith, having a faith in the unseen realms. And what I want to really focus on or end this video with is just the knowing that things are falling into place as they should based on this energetic realm and its complete totality of love that it has for life itself. You are part of creation. You are part of this system of this out-manifesting thing we call life. And it is a beautiful, unconditionally loving energy. Even if there is distortion in it, life itself is sacred. And there are unfathomable, unseen forces which are guiding all of us in each and every moment. So again, leaning not on our understanding of what is going on is extremely important. It doesn't mean that we sit back and we allow nefarious energies to take over, or that we do nothing about the things in the external world which we know to be incorrect or distorted. It doesn't mean that we don't have that heart or that courage to stand up and to set things right. But it does mean that we dispel this pervasive fear that can be the Achilles heel of humanity. Fear is so detrimental to our collective consciousness. And when we can learn to dispel fear and move past it, and again, move into this energy of trust. So trusting that what is creating creation, or the forces behind everything, are pervasively, unconditionally loving. And that we are in a system of free will, meaning that we are here in a situation or in a sort of matrix that allows us to kind of go wild in terms of everything that we can imagine and everything that we can see out manifesting, but that there still is a safety net of God energy or divine energy that is protecting us even when it is beyond our understanding. And that's what I've been able to discern from tapping into these sort of non-physical energies, is that everything is learning. Everything is set up for us to be learning. And some of us take a little longer than others. Some of us repeat the lessons many times, and we allow the distortion, or we walk through the distortion perhaps longer in linear based time, which is again an illusion, but it seems to happen, more often through the system of free will when we are not paying attention to the lessons that our souls need to learn. And there's no judgment for this. There's consequences in three-dimensional reality. For sure, there are going to be consequences. But the learning, especially in this loving system of free will, is infinite. Essentially, you can continue the lesson over and over and over until you get it. And that is the unconditional love. So the, many esoteric teachings, many religions ask us to lean not on our understanding, but to walk in faith. And this is exactly what essentially will be the most kind of safe way for our consciousness to maneuver throughout our life's existence. If we can settle into or land into this soft understanding that we are held that by grace, by mercy, by this system of unconditional love, then in all of our mistakes and in all of our shortcomings, we have the opportunity to try it again. We have the opportunity to become a better version of our past self in the ever forgiving now moment. And this is, again, that is the concept of salvation, is that in any given moment, we are quote unquote redeemed. Now, a lot of these terms, salvation, resurrection, redemption, they're very old terms. So they sort of hold almost a strange weight in modern day times. So when people utilize these terms, they don't calibrate in the way that we would understand them as correctly in the modern era. So that's why I don't really like to use those kind of terms, because they're so heavily associated with biblical type teachings. And again, I would never try to teach something as sacred as any scripture, because it's not my place to do so. I can only teach concepts which are, again, non-abstract, that are relevant in terms of the daily life that I am living, that you are living, in terms of creating a forward momentum that helps stabilize the body, the mind, and the spirit, and wants nothing but only to create a pervasive type of peace and stabilized joy. That's it. I know that's kind of a mouthful, but again, when we think about energy that is too preachy, which is that energy that wants to, from one human to another. So you have human number one, human number two. When one human tries to elevate its stature above another and sort of preach down to it, the equilibrium of energy exchange is becoming distorted. It's not, it's a type of power that almost incites a type of obedience that undermines the system of free will. And we are not to do that. We are not in any given aspect of the student-teacher, teacher-student exchange elevate ourselves higher than. So it is extremely important that when we understand the student-teacher, teacher-student dynamic, that we understand that it is an equal energy exchange. The teacher is not above the student is not above the teacher. There's always going to be exchange of information whereby simultaneously the teacher can also become the student. And that's the beauty of this type of system that we're in, when we start to equalize the energies into a more divine way of thinking. Everything is balanced. There isn't this hierarchy that creates the type of suffering that we see playing out here on planet Earth. So again, I'm going to kind of wrap this video up, but I was very inspired to speak about this morning. I was having a workout and really felt a lot of energy kind of pulling towards me, and I wanted to explain this, you know, in the best way that I could put it into words. So wishing you all a very beautiful day, peaceful day, and we'll see you in the next video.